Hello, my friends. I'm going to record a follow-up to the video that I recorded on the new moon with some of the cards that I pulled on the new moon. I've been looking at those this weekend and working with them around my particular theme for the new moon cycle, which is Venus Reimagined. But you can choose your own theme for the moon cycle. And so the two cards that I'm going to do today, if you watch the other video, even if you didn't, I'm going to follow this lunar context with this card draw, and I do this across the course of the whole month. So what I'm going to do today is read the first two cards, which are the Earth and the new moon, and then over the course of this month, every weekend, I will pick one or two, depending on how much time is, where we are in the moon cycle, and also where we are with respect to the next new moon, so that I get them all in by the end of the month. So that's basically how I approach this. This is Kantiji Oracle, which is a really nice deck. It has a lot of detailed information, really a lot to work with and think about. So for the lunar context, starting with the Earth, the meaning there, or the way to think about the card, is this card indicates what is actual and manifest in your situation. Connecting with and accepting these elements is grounding. These things hold and support you, your growth, and your situation, even if they seem difficult. All right, so that's what we're going to be keeping in mind as we look at this card 51. The setting sun sings the song of unmaking. You can see this guy is upside down, so unmaking, which I also mentioned in the other video. My theme for the year is unraveling, so that's definitely in alignment with what I've got going on. So the setting sun sings the song of unmaking, and by the way, the beginning of each of these chapters has this, basically a little story. It's kind of a myth. They're really beautiful. I'm not going to read that because it'll make this a little long, but they're very poetic. So it's kind of the poetic portion of that card's meaning. But the information that kind of gives you a little bit more tangible things to work with, this: send constructions of the mind into the great void to enable new thoughts and therefore new experiences. So this is really talking about unmaking and sending things back into the void, basically letting go. So letting go is obviously really, really big in spiritual practice, in life in general. And instead, we're talking about how do you unmake? How do you completely let go, let that thing just disappear, vaporize from your experience? So that's really the question to be in, or one of many questions you could be in. When you're drawn to this archetype, you benefit from turning your attention toward the constructions of your mind. So this is about beliefs and attitudes, and considering whether your beliefs support your truest and strongest unfolding, or whether they limit your growth. So what sorts of beliefs may you be needing to let go of and allow to just disappear into the void? Use this image to help you settle the repetitive thought patterns that crowd your mind. That is something that's really big for me, so I really appreciate that reminder. Let this image inspire breakthroughs in your meditation practice. That's also a challenge for me, so I do, again, appreciate having that support. And use this image to unmake any limiting beliefs or destructive attitudes you may harbor, and allow for more empowering beliefs and kind attitudes to emerge from the void of infinite possibility. There's some questions as a portal. What if your internal voices became good friends who cared about and inspired you? What if your mind was silent and still for a while? So for me, the way that I'm working with this type of energy is definitely with meditation. It's definitely with journaling. It's with doing a lot of observation about the types of structural beliefs that I have in place, the types of things that I think are true, and questioning everything. So really just saying to myself, is it really true? And that question can be applied at really kind of day-to-day happenings and relationship happenings in our life, but it can also be applied at very fundamental levels of our belief systems and the way that we view reality. So I would encourage you to broaden that question and get a little uncomfortable with the sorts of things that you start to ask yourself about, are they really true? So that's the first card. And then I'm going to go back to the beginning here for the new moon, which of course is behind us now, but we're still working with that energy. That's it's only a few days out. I would like to have done this yesterday, but it was too windy here to record a video yesterday, so I'm doing it today. All right, so the new moon. This card indicates how your system regenerates. So building from the base. If you are exploring a cycle that feels destructive, this card can offer clues to what your triggers are. When you know your triggers, you can take a step to minimize your contact with them and to develop evolved strategies of response to those triggers. If you're exploring a constructive cycle, this card offers clues for how to embrace the moments of quiet and nourish yourself so your inspiration can reboot with renewed vigor when the time is right. Consider that we do not get to choose when the moon reappears in the sky, and yet it always returns. So the card that we're working with for that is the dawn that follows the prolonged night, which I thought was very fitting for the new moon, right? Because that's the dark time of the month. That's the time of the month when things are sometimes challenging. And so, you might be likening this to a dark night of the soul and coming out of that dark night of the soul. So the suggestion here is to stop thinking. Instead, cultivate what causes illumination. Notice and meditate on the first glimmers of light in dark spaces and times. If that's not critical right now, I don't know what is. So night is the time of not knowing, not seeing, subtle stirrings, creating monsters or terrors in our imagination. So big. I'm doing a lot of sitting and not knowing for many, many reasons. And so this is a really helpful, hopeful card to think about. All right, I'm in not knowing, we're in not knowing. There's a whole lot of not being sure about what the future looks like. And dawn will come. And we will be able to see where we are and know the right direction to head from this point. Orienting towards the rising sun. So looking for those little glimmers of light. And there's a really good question in here. When does dawn begin? Can you pinpoint the moment when the light first kindles in the darkness? And I think that's a really lovely thing to think about, that we don't know when dawn starts because you can't tell moment by moment what's happening, what's changing, and when the dawn is coming. It's really only after it's well into dawn where you go, oh yeah, it's light now, I see it. So lack of clarity, knowing that soon there will be some clarity. And contrary to popular belief, thinking is not usually the best way to solve a problem. In fact, it's our thinking that tends to get us into trouble spots and then keeps us stuck there. And in Western culture especially, we are really thinking people. And so this is the encouragement to become more of a feeling person and tap into the wisdom of the body, do somatic practices, do work with ways of releasing tension in the body, using this image to spark light in dark times. Let this image remind you that darkness is always the precursor to light. And the question, what if something wonderful is about to happen? So let's hold that for sure in our hearts and our minds. We let our minds be part of the party too. We just don't let them be the whole party. And so for me, as I'm thinking about these two things with respect to my theme for the month of Venus Reimagined, the setting sun sings the song of unmaking, for me is really around the whole theme, right, of unmaking my beliefs and unmaking the things that I think I know about relationship, about beauty, about the feminine, and letting that unfold into something much different than probably I believe, but especially culture at large believes about those topics. And then that dark night of the soul, that question, and turning off the mind. Again, we're talking about, with respect to Venus Reimagined, allowing the answers to arise from a deeper place. So not trying to think my way through that, but trying to feel my way through that, allowing my body and my deeper wisdom to inform and teach and inspire and offer me things that I wouldn't have thought of myself, right? So that's the first two cards in this month's moon cycle. I'll come back next weekend and do the quarter moon, and then I'll catch you all on the the full moon, which is always a beautiful time of peaking and fulfillment. So it'll be really interesting to see where the world is at that point, where I am at that point, where Venus Reimagined is at that point. So take care. Bye.